Protests in Georgia's capital, Tbilisi, have entered their fourth consecutive night, with opposition spreading across the country. Demonstrators are expressing their anger over the government's decision to suspend talks on joining the European Union. The crisis began on Thursday when the Georgian government, led by the ruling Georgian Dream Party, announced a 4-year freeze on EU talks. Thousands of protesters have since gathered in Tbilisi, with police using tear gas and water cannons to disperse the crowds. But the unrest is not confined to the capital. Demonstrators in Poti have blocked roads and protests have been reported in at least 8 cities and towns across the country. In the central town of Kashuri, anger boiled over as residents threw eggs at the Georgian Dream Party office and tore down its flag. Opposition groups accused the government of abandoning its pro-Western course in favor of authoritarian and pro-Russian policies. Prime Minister Irakli Kobakidze has dismissed international criticism. He denied accusations of using excessive force against protesters and suggested foreign interference in the unrest. Kobakidze also brushed off the United States' decision to suspend a strategic partnership with Georgia, calling it a temporary event. Meanwhile, Russia has been closely monitoring the situation. Dmitry Medvedev, a former Russian president, described the protests as an attempted revolution and likened Georgia's path to Ukraine's, claiming it leads to a dark abyss. On the other hand, newly appointed EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas voiced support for the demonstrators, condemning the violence against protesters and warning of consequences for Georgia's democratic backsliding. Adding to the turmoil, outgoing President Salome Zurabichvili has refused to step down at the end of her term, citing concerns over the legitimacy of the new parliament. She has been a vocal advocate for Georgia's EU membership and a critic of the current government. The suspension of EU talks has drawn backlash from hundreds of diplomats and civil servants, with some resigning in protest. The ambassador to Washington was among those stepping down. Critics argue that halting EU integration is unconstitutional, as joining the bloc is enshrined in Georgia's constitution. For decades, Georgia has leaned towards the West, seeking NATO membership and closer ties with the EU. But now, with rising tensions between the ruling party and the opposition, the country finds itself at a crossroads. As protests continue, the Georgian people's choice for a European future hangs in the balance. Outro music inspirational tone as text appears on screen. Stay informed. Subscribe for more updates.